brokers. We travel around the world selling priceless works of art.
You know, one day I want to have exactly what you have.
So how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. So excited to speak with you. I'm a huge fan of the magazine. I'm actually visiting family in Kentucky. I live in Los Angeles, but I have like so many back issues of your magazine that are just like on my shelf of favorite horror books and magazines and whatnot. So
Wow, that's
yeah.
good to hear. The last film you did was Isolation, which it was a while back, but I remember it. I really enjoyed it. This is quite a change from that, but at the same time, the idea of these pirates that wanted to steal the identities of these people does kind of lead into this film in a way. I don't want to give too much away, of course, but it does kind of, there's certain themes there that did share certain parallels, no?
It absolutely did, and I'd written so many films with partners. I wanted to do something myself solo, and this just kind of, it started with the ending, and then it just kind of worked. I started with the ending. I gave it to my producing partner Steven Schneider, who does M. Night Shyamalan's films, Infamous, Paranormal Activity, all those, and I was like, okay, now you got to go write it. Like, I love the ending, and so I just started working backwards on it, and it was I wanted to do something small, and just kind of, I had so many other films that are like just bigger in scope, and it was just so hard to get to the starting line that I want to do something a little smaller, and shot at my parents' house, which I've never done before, my parents' bourbon distillery, Kentucky Peerless. So it was much smaller in scale than in for the last film we were in Bahamas, and we're Puerto Rico, a bunch of other places, Mississippi, and so I just wanted something that was a much smaller scale. And
it's definitely it's a small scale move, but I think it has so much to say. It feels like you really had I don't know, I mean, I could be wrong, but maybe it was for cinematic effect, but it just felt like you had a real chip on your shoulder, especially with how the other half lived for some reason. I don't know if it was just because of there was the idea that you came with the film, but it certainly felt like you came with this with a lot of things running through your mind, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've dealt with I just went to Stephen. I grew up on horror films, thrillers. I'm from Kentucky. John Carpenter, David Gordon Green is a good friend, and with the new Halloween,
all right.
Everything I do, I run past David too, and send him like, what do you think of this cut? What do you think of this early cut, and whatnot. So, and David and Steven were the ones like, okay, go for it. I mean, go more horror-ish, more thriller this time, and I loved it. I hope to stay in this realm and do more.
Something that I really enjoy about it is because, I mean, it is a home invasion movie at its core, but at the same time, some of the time it does, but a lot of the time it just really doesn't feel like you're watching a typical home invasion movie. When you went into writing the scripts, was that something that you had very much in mind, was to write a home invasion movie without it feeling like home invasion movies we've seen before?
Find her and keep her quiet.
You all right?
Yeah.
Wanted to do something from the point of view of the intruder and also the victim, and just kind of go back and forth, because it's either one or the other, and you hate, you kind of feel for Bella in the beginning, when she's in the bathroom and talking to Mircea, the other actress, and I just wanted there to be some sympathy towards her, but also kind of go back and forth and try to get a feel for like, what does she have in store here. And that was always, I didn't want her to make her just outright evil, and you come in, I wanted sympathy for her and for losing her mother and things before, as we get into it. Then it goes much darker, but I wanted this build to that point for sure.
And obviously, when we get to know villains in horror movies, the more we know about them, or the more they speak, or the more they're on screen, a lot of times they kind of lose their chill factor, no, their fear factor. That must have been something that played a lot in your mind as well, now writing the script.
Oh, absolutely. And You know, it was funny because I always Alyvia Alyn Lind, her dad is my first AD, so I've known her since she was a little baby, the young
All right.
actress in the film. And then I also wrote it for Bella in mind. So to get my top two choices, you know, it was amazing. And I sent Bella an early, you know, one of the early scripts, and she and I kind of played off too. Like she helped a lot. I mean, she was fantastic in giving notes of, you know, no, we need to see more of this, and we need to see more of her at the party, and just kind of get a feel for her. And so it's not just, you know, so on the nose of who the villain is. You know, she's got a bright future, you know, as a director. I mean, not just an actress and whatnot, but as a director. I mean, she thinks as a director, which was fantastic.
Yeah. Something else I want to talk about is I'm curious. Is we don't see very often horror, especially like horror thriller movies, about fine art. Where did that come from?
Yeah, I'd seen so many films. It's like, oh, it's always about a heist, and we've seen money before, and we've seen these things, and I really wanted, it's a visual medium, so I wanted for the audience to see what they were going after, and to see, you know, the bright and vibrant colors, and, you know, just not like, oh, we're trying to get into a safe and we're going to get, you know, and just that can be, you know, I don't want to say boring. I mean, I love a lot of these films, but it just felt like a lot. I wanted to go through and get a feel for, you know, when I'm working with the actors that were taking, I wanted to, you know, I talked to a guy in the FBI. Sorry, I'm jumping around. I talked to a guy in the FBI who dealt with art and thefts, and how tedious that process is. They want it to be perfect. You can't rip it. You can't do anything. And I wanted to feel like it's, you know, it's a very precise thing. You know, when he lays out his tools, and he's taking his time to pick which tool he's going to use, almost like a surgeon. And that's what this guy in the FBI is like. They think of themselves as surgeons, those that go in to pull off these art heists. And that's kind of, you know, from that, I was like, that's genius, you know, just what goes into this. And, you know, they're, you know, surgeons in their own right, when they go in and pull this off. So yeah, I just wanted something that was just so visual.
I mean, talking of tools, it was very interesting. The weapons of choice that the antagonist uses is hammer, hammer, hammer.
Yes.
Was there any specific reason why you went with a hammer?
I'd just done a lot of, you know, I've written a lot of action films and a lot of guns and a lot of different things, and it was just, you know, they thought they were going to, you know, they think they're going to go in and tie some people up and that would be it. And it just, you know, it's a shock value as well, for this whole thing. And, you know, it's a tool they're using to extract the art, but also, you know, in this film, I'm not giving anything away for the trailer. It's a brutal thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm not sure how my family is going to feel about they haven't seen the film yet, but to see how bloody it
See what happened in their house, no?
Yes, exactly. Especially some scenes in my parents' house, so they're going to be like,
No, that's what I mean. Yeah, they're going to get the cleaners in quick.
yeah, exactly. I moved them out, and they're going to be shocked that you know, before it's gonna.
They won't be showing it to the rest of the family anytime soon, no.
Yes,
The grandkids. And also, aside from the hammers, I mean, a lot of horror films, when the villain wears a mask, there's always been a lot of thought as to the kind of mask that they wear. These were again they were like fencing masks or something like that, no? Was there any specific reason for that? Was it because of the people that they were going after, they were going to rob, or was there a more specific reason why you chose those masks?
Actually, you know, as I was writing the script, I live in Burbank, and in the park about 2 blocks from us, it's like all the Star Wars fighters, you know, all the sword fighters and all the extras and things in those films, they work out in the park. So they wear those masks. So I'll come, you know, I'm with my kids at the park and walking through, and like, if you're looking straight on, you can see them, but once they turn their head just a little bit, and it's just complete darkness. And it was just something eerie about that, about seeing all these guys with these lightsabers, you know, preparing for, you know, a Star Wars film, or it's also Game of Thrones, and all these actors that go in there and you know, are fighting or practice fighting, choreographing their fight scenes, just seeing these masks, and it was like straight on. It's like, oh yeah, but just a hair to the right or left, and like just darkness and blankness. And that's that was right in the middle of writing the script. It's like, okay, that's what I'm going for. That was
Right.
cool.
I don't know, it just came across to me because I just kind of linked fencing to kind of like the high society kind of sport, and I thought maybe that was kind of a
Yeah,
joke or
I
something,
guess it played into it as well. I mean, because when I went to meet with, because I didn't know anything about masks, I went to some former Olympian and talked to him about fencing masks, and they were like, "Oh yeah, well it's what kind of person's doing it? It's, oh, you want the white mask are for this type, and the black mask are for this type," and it definitely is this high society, very wealthy thing, and that's why we went with these black dark, and they're like, well, those are the true champions of the sport. You wear these black masks, where the white ones are, oh, you're starting out. I mean, I learned a lot about fencing. They're starting out, and you wear these white back and white masks and all this stuff. So it's like, no, I want a champion, someone who's fought. It's also a lot scarier.
through the fencing ranks.
Exactly.
So another one of the actors that really stands out in the film, of course, is the girl who plays Casey. It's Alyvia, but you pronounce it, no? Alyvia.
Yes.
She's fantastic. Where did you find her? Because I believe she's in the Chucky TV series that's coming soon.
Yeah. So she is. I'm so excited for her. And so her dad is my first assistant director. She has 2 older sisters. Her mom was an actress, and I've just kind of seen her grow up. She showed up on set. I did a film, Bloodworth, a Sony film, many years ago, and she was on, and I've just kind of watched her career, and I wrote it. And so when I wrote it for her, in the time I wrote it, in about a 6-month span, she probably grew about 6 inches. So it was like this little girl who just sprung up kind of overnight. And I remember we had some costumes for her. It's like, oh my goodness, these don't fit anymore. I mean, you're not this little girl anymore. But no, she's fantastic, and she's she's done a lot of soap opera television, so she's used to just cranking things out. And but no, she's ready to she did a series on Netflix, kind of a horror zombie thing, and then now with Chucky, now she's really going dark because she loves those films. And yeah, it's gonna be fun to watch her grow up, and her other sisters on she was in Doctor Sleep, and another one's in another horror film. So they kind of that family is growing up with your dad's the first AD and your mom's an actress on One Tree Hill and a bunch of things. So they grew up from birth like, this is what you're going to do. And I love that family to death.
To finish off then, I wanted to ask if you've got anything planned for the future. I mean, obviously because of coronavirus and everything, I imagine you've had plenty of time to put things in perspective and see where you want to go now. I mean, I know not that long ago you wrote a really good Scott Adkins movie, actually, that I really enjoyed, because Isaac Florentine is probably hands down my favorite action movie director. Is that something that you'd like to? I mean, you said that you'd love to do some more horror movies, but would you be up for doing some kind of really hardcore action movie? I could really see you doing something like that. I'd like to see that. Yeah.
I mean, with Close Range, the film you're talking about. I mean, Isaac is so underrated. I mean, he does
a good director,
countless action films, and I would love to see him with a $50 million budget, or something, because he just brings it. And Scott was a pleasure to work with, and gosh, I'd love to do a sequel to that film. But Chad Law, my writing partner, we've written several films together. One film, Salvage, we were scheduled to do. We were 2 weeks from shooting with a very big cast, and a hurricane hit Louisiana. It was kind of like an action horror film. It shut us down. So I had the money for that film. I had the crew, and that's what brought me back to making. The reason Masquerade exists is because that other film got shut down.
All right.
Because we were 2 weeks from shooting, and okay, I've got money for a film and I've got a crew, but I have nothing to shoot. So I was like, okay, I've got this Masquerade, but I want to go back and make this thing. But my next film is I just actually just sold the script for that we're going to shoot here in October, It's a film called Red Machine, and it's about a couple and the woman's dad who are on a vacation. They're in an RV, and a wildfire hits, so they've got to escape, and they come across a grizzly bear. So it's an hour and a half real-time film of massive wildfire and a grizzly bear attack over this this very tight thing. And it was Austin Nichols, who started Masquerade. He and I wrote that together, so we just started talking about films, and he's horror films and what we want to see.
Yeah, because he's a big horror fan. I mean, he was in Bates Motel and Walking Dead and things like that.
Yeah, so he and I wrote this together, going like, let's do something like that. And then I've got a true really big non-stop action film that we're working on the comic book on now, which is it's like close range. I mean, it's called Runaway Bride. So the first issue of the comic should be out hopefully later this year, and it's a bride trying to escape. She leaves her fiance husband at the altar and takes off to a cabin, and he sends his 7 deadly groomsmen after. So it's this non-stop, no holds barred. She's got to take out 7 groomsmen that are all trained killers in different forms of fighting. So so that's so Chad Law and I wrote that one as well, and Chad's written several films for Isaac. And if my card gets too filled, then Isaac will be my next call to say, hey, I want you to do the groomsmen.
Brilliant. Well, listen, I don't want to keep you any longer. So Shane, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't think I can trust you.
One day I want to have exactly what you have.